when it comes to like imagery and the way that I want to capture a visual, I think I'm really heavily influenced by movement. Ever since I was young, when I wanted to get into video, it started off with first skateboarding and then dance. And then with dancing for like 15 plus years, being wanting to incorporate that movement into the way that I capture imagery and the way that I see life, or to share how I see life in that way, has been a big kind of guiding compass to like how I get inspired to like film and stuff. I think when it comes down to the actual product that I create, I want to create impact.
Cool, man. What's up, dude? How's the creative journey been? I feel like at the end of the year is a good time to look back and be like, wow, look at everything I've done.
Yeah, dude, it's funny because in the last like week or two, I've come into this place of just like really self-reflecting on where I'm at with creative journey, where I want to go, what I want to do differently, and all that. And I feel like you and I are in very similar places. I saw your Instagram story today, and you mentioned that you're in a space of like wanting to help people and stuff. And I have recently, actually, I was on Notion yesterday and I wrote down like three primary goals and then two secondary goals that I really wanted to focus on. And like for the most part, they're creative goals and ways for me to bring the creative more so into like a stable financial place. Because when it comes to like family, when it comes to, I guess, building a life, like that's really important. But for us, we want to be able to be creative for the rest of our lives. Like we want that level of play because that keeps us young, keeps us
Right.
happy. So it's finding ways to create that balance and like push that further.
No, for sure. I think the idea of wanting to play for as long as you can is the real struggle of and at the same time, it's so tough because in your mind like, oh, I'm playing, but you take it very seriously. It's a craft that you take seriously. You learn, you invest, you put time into, and then you book certain projects. You're like, dude, I just made what? How much money on doing something that I'm just playing around and figuring out, and it just
Yeah.
changes you. It's a tough field, I would say, but I think as long as you really enjoy growing in creative storytelling at any capacity, I think that you'll be fine. Where do you feel you are
Right.
today in um okay, how would you classify yourself? Would you say content creator, filmmaker?
Ooh. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
How do you describe that for yourself? I know that's different and sensitive to everyone. I'm just curious for yourself.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy because I feel like the distinctions that people like to put on themselves, like some people are cinematographers and they will hate when somebody calls them a videographer, for example. And I don't know, I feel like my identity when it comes down to this stuff is very fluid because there are different moments where different parts of me come into play, right? Like there are going to be gigs that I do where I need to be a videographer. I need to just capture what's there. I don't really have the ability to shape what's going on. I have to be the one to just kind of like capture it the way it is. And then there are moments where I really want to put something together, make it look really nice, and like be able to tell a deep story. And in which case, in that moment, I'd be a filmmaker, cinematographer, stuff like that, because I want to make it look great. I want to be able to create an impact with my work. And there's also the aspect where we do it for content now, right? Like everything's on social media. And so I think a big part of what we do is like, oh, I want to build a personal brand. I want to put myself out there and create some type of reputation that can help me, whether it be like to create a business or to, to create relationships, stuff like that. So it's kind of fluid, man. I'd kind of say I'm all over in terms of what that is. Like some days I will be a content creator. I'm doing this like not as a job. I'm filming myself. Other days I'll be like, yeah, I'm a filmmaker because I want to make this look cohesive and like tell a deep story. So I think it really depends on the situation, man. Like I don't really have that many I don't want to constrain myself or limit myself to like one title over another.
No, I think
What
that's a
about you, bro?
really good place to be at, man, because we get very caught up in the titles of a profession. But I mean, I've pulled inspiration from like the Renaissance time. Like people were
Mhm.
painters, but you only knew them as painters because that was the most popular medium. But when you look at their
Right.
work, they were poets, musicians, writers. You know, there were so many different types of mediums and you couldn't
Yeah.
really classify them. It's just that we knew them as so and so that did this piece of work, right?
Right.
And I would say that video to what we do today is kind of at the top of its priority in our times, right? which is
Right,
like
right.
the art form to tell a story, the art form to create. And it's also in the most demand too. So I think you're spot on with being fluid, to be flexible per se on what it is that you do. Where would you say you pull
Yeah.
your inspiration from? Like you could
Ooh.
date back to like where you first found the inspiration for picking
Yeah,
up the
yeah,
camera, or
yeah.
you know, a couple weeks ago. I don't know. Like where do you feel like you pull
Yeah.
the inspiration for what it is that you do?
So, I mean, when it comes to like imagery and the way that I want to capture a visual, I think I'm really heavily influenced by movement. Ever since I was young, when I wanted to get into video, it started off with first skateboarding and then dance. And then with dancing for like 15 plus years, being wanting to incorporate that movement into the way that I capture imagery and the way that I see life, or to share how I see life in that way, has been a big kind of guiding compass to like how I get inspired to like film and stuff. I think when it comes down to the actual product that I create, I want to create impact. So when it comes down to like what it is I'm creating, I want to make sure that it's doing something. You know what I mean? Like I am inspired to help the person that I'm creating for in the way that they want, but in a way that like I can put a piece of myself into that. Like the way that I see the world, I want to be able to ingrain that into my work somehow and like kind of spread it like a seed. You know what I mean?
No, for sure. I mean, you're speaking like an artist. An artist is to take a feeling and to
Right,
create something to transfer to communicate that feeling. As a
right.
filmmaker, that's a there's so many ways to do that, from audible to visual to storytelling, and that's what kind of makes the art form for what it is. I think in today's age, it's just such a, I don't want to use the language broken, because it's not broken
Mhm.
in like a bad way. It's just broken up into
Right,
various pieces that you're like, well, I mean, this is storytelling and so is this. And when you could spread
yeah,
yourself out and realize that they're all connected and then also take it all apart, I think it's a good
right.
place to be in. But that's also a difficult place to be in too when you enjoy so many aspects of one craft.
Yeah, no, I agree, and also with, like, social media, bro, I feel like everything's being redefined. Like,
Right.
the way that you tell a story is being redefined. Like, we watch movies and stuff, and we grow up with this idea that a story is, like, an introduction, a body, a conclusion, like, rising actions, climax, stuff like that, right? You look at social media and how information is, like, put out there, and it's like the beginning has to, like, hook you real fast, and I guess when you're writing a story, there has to be, like, a a hook when it comes to, like, writing, but I feel like it's a lot more prominent now in social media than, like, what I at least believe storytelling was before.
Right. No, I mean,
Yeah.
okay, this is actually a good segue, right? Okay,
Yeah.
let's pull from like the first couple creators that you saw, whether it's YouTube, films, commercials, music videos, I don't care. What are the first
Right.
couple creators that you saw that you're like, I just want to do that? Let's just kind of go off on that first, because I'm curious on what
Yeah.
your inspirations are.
Right. Like, who were the first couple creators? Like, what were the
Yeah, like I mean, it could be moments or it could be people, you know,
Yeah.
from YouTubers to photographers to I don't know. I mean, the door's wide open. I think inspiration can come from anywhere.
Yeah.
Who is it that you saw, and when you saw their work, it was just this, I think I want to do that too.
Yeah, dude, I mean, I think Sam Colder is a big one that a lot of people are gonna say.
For
Sam
sure.
Colder, Jay Alvarez,
Hmm.
they have this, like, aura of just adventure in their work,
Mm.
but the experience that they have seem very carefree, but also the places that they see and the experience that they have seem to have like an awe-inspiring kind of vibe to it. And I've always really been into that like awe-inspiring vibe and wanting to create that effect in my work for people to watch. Like I want the work to be relatable but larger than life in a way where the person can watch it, feel it, and be like, "Holy crap! Like this is insane." Like
Right.
imagine, imagine like an audience member at a concert, and you have all these visuals, you have like all the special effects, and they're just standing there like eyes wide, jaw dropped, like wow, you know. Like I want to be able to create that. And so when I watched like Sam's videos back then, when I watched like Jay's videos back then, I was messaging my boy. I was like, bro, like we have to do this one day. And it wasn't even the creation aspect. It was like, dude, look, they're jumping off cliffs, they're skydiving, they're longboarding down these hills going super fast and like not worried at all. They're just like living their best life. but in
Right.
a way that like is play. And so for me back then, it was very much that. And it's just, I feel like the capturing part of it was just a bonus of being like, yo, like look at these stories that I lived through. It was like documenting memories. You know what I mean?
Right. How did that translate with your experience of capturing breaking, like in the introductory? Is there a relationship of like filmmaking and breaking and then filmmaking and living life for you?
Dude, I mean, breaking is one of those things that makes me feel that like awe-inspiring feeling. Like I
Mhm.
used to watch America's Best Dance Crew, and I remember watching Jabberwockies, and one of the guys had to do a flare on like the hood of a car. And I remember watching that and being like, yo, I would never be able to flare on the hood of a car. And I never even thought I could flare, you know what I mean? And I was like, dude, this is so sick. Next thing I know, it's like I can do flares now. And you know what I mean? There's like a feeling of like when you're dancing, it feels very like what is it called? It feels very like physics defying almost, even though it's like very physics heavy, but it's like it feels very out of this world to be doing that. And
Well, we
so
are defying
wanted to
gravity for sure. Absolutely.
right. Yeah.
Breaking.
And we're playing with like momentum to do that. And it's just like
Did you
it's
did
just
you
kind of
come up
crazy.
filming yourself as well, or making
No,
videos and films for dance?
no. So I wanted to, but
Interesting.
nobody around me knew how to use a camera. And that's where I had to be like, okay, like I need to use a camera. And funny enough, like during the time that I was learning to use a camera and film more, was when I stopped dancing. So it's like when
What?
I kinda, like traded one discipline for the other. And during the time that we were knowing each other, that was when I was like integrating both more.
No
But
way. I didn't
yeah,
know
like
that.
yeah, I wasn't creating content around like video much. And I don't even create a lot of content within the scene of like the breaking scene here, the dancing scene much. Cause like I didn't get into breaking when I was using a camera, right? Like when I was in breaking, that was like I'm a b-boy, like I dance. I didn't know anything about cameras. I hadn't touched a camera yet. Like I only film myself with my phone to get ideas or to like criticize myself and stuff.
Dude, I love that we're having this conversation because I was just thinking about this the other day about like a lot of my close friends are dancers
Right.
because we came up in the scene. But there's aspects about my profession and my lifestyle because of my profession as a creative storyteller that they don't get, they don't understand that, right? There's only a few people that I could say in my life that really get that, right? Um, how
Right.
is that a thing that you go through for yourself? Like just from the lifestyle and culture that dance has presented to you, and then living this completely different life because you hold a camera.
Right. Dude, so it's funny that you asked this because I was thinking about that topic like today while I was driving.
Hmm.
And I think that when I traded one discipline for the other, it wasn't necessarily a switch. It wasn't like, oh, I'm one and now I'm the other. I think from being in dance for so long, that for me, like it became a part of my identity. And although I wasn't dancing and filming or like doing it together, I think there are aspects of dance in my identity that I carried over to filming. And I think that that kind of what made me stand out. I think that made me unique in the way that I perform the craft. And I think that tied really deeply into how I like to film movement, but also film like with movement, like while I'm like moving. Like I like doing a lot of moving shots because I like being able to feel that freedom and also capture that freedom. You know what I mean? I feel like life in general, like, is not stagnant. So why perceive a world that is?
That's great, man. I love how you take the inspiration of one life, like lifetime, because that's what it feels like when
Yeah,
you're a dancer. It's like this is a lifetime that I'm experiencing, and then anything outside of it,
yeah,
you look back and you're like, oh, that was that life, and this is this life, right? Um, one thing that I've always found similar within,
mhm,
I guess you could say, camera lifestyle and dance lifestyle is travel conceptually, like the
yeah,
constant going places to experience it. And actually, I this is a question
yeah.
I really wanted to know. Do you feel like your networking capabilities is based off of the influence from dance culture? Because to me, you network like you were in hip hop.
Me
Yeah,
personally,
absolutely. That's just how I see it. I don't know. I'm just curious if that is an influence or if you ever thought about it.
I dude, I've never specifically thought about it like that because I worked retail too. So I saw retail as like a big opportunity to learn how to network too. But I do think that dance played a big part because like the similar with retail, when you're in hip hop or when you're in dance, like you're meeting people from different walks of life, right? You just happen to have one overlap. And within that overlap, you get to like meet a bunch of people and get to know a bunch of people. And I think that helps with being able to communicate with a lot of different people. And yeah, dude, I think it did come into play when it came to like being able to network with that skill.
Right. Yeah, because in
Yeah.
dance culture, there's this like there's a lot of travel, but then there's a lot of just kind of jumping into ciphers and getting to know people, right? It's like always going into some sort of random creative place, and there's like this
Yeah.
openness to want to get to know another community, another group of people, another production.
Right.
And that's kind of what I feel this creator lifestyle is like, is just always
Right.
wanting to get into another circle, another production, and traveling and being open to whatever it presents. And not many people can do that, man.
Dude, funny enough, when I was dancing, like especially when I first started, I was afraid of ciphering. I was like, I had a really hard time putting myself out there. Like I had an instructor at a dance school that like down the line he told me, he was like, bro, like I used to hate you. And I was like, why? He's like, bro, because you would ask me to show you something. And then when I asked you to try it, you would say, no, I'll do it like later. And like, and every time we would have classes and he would ask everybody to battle, I would just sit to the side and I'd be like, no, I'm good. Like I used to just be like that. I used to be, and like I don't know how it came off, but I used to be extremely like self-conscious with that stuff because dance is so vulnerable. Like to share my movement that way when I wasn't as familiar with movement,
Mm.
it was a whole different experience. So it's kind of cool now that like growing up, I get to look back at that and see how I've evolved. And even the way that you describe a cipher is so interesting because it is a conversation. It's like, you know, you're sharing with other people, but it took me a while to be able to actually see it like that. In the beginning, I just saw it as people just seeing like who's better and giving each other kind of like looking down on each other and being like, no, I'm better than you and having a bunch of ego. And like at some point I saw it like that. And that's why I didn't like going in there because I'm like, dude, like I don't have that ego in me that's like, oh, I'm the best. Like for me, I'm more so like, oh shit, like what you did was sick. And then I'm like, oh, let me try that. You know what I mean? Like it was a different perspective. Now it's like, oh, like it's a conversation. Like people hop in a cipher, do something, somebody else comes in, might try it or might try to like flip it, like laughs about it. You know, like now it's a lot more. I see it with a lot more maturity. So I see where you're going with that.
I want to segue into bragging rights a year ago when we entered the
Okay.
competition together, right?
Okay.
So
That was a good time, bro. That was a good
I'm
time.
dude, I'm just because I can tell you where I was at in my life, but I don't think I ever stopped to be like why did this happen? How was Pat available and willing at the same time? Because I also know that you break and you were training, but it's not like battling is on the forefront of your life. You know, it's not
Right.
like competition is like the center of. So the fact that you were just down was awesome. But I'm just curious, like where were you at with dance? Where were you at with career? Where were you at in life that you were just like, yeah, let's enter. But do you have a professional career in creating content, filmmaking, and traveling? And just like yeah, I'm down. I don't know. I
Yeah.
just want to know where you were at with one, dance, and then two, in life, that it just kind of happened.
Yeah, dude, I go through a couple like phases in life, and one of them is just like the I'm down, you know what I mean? Like I I get bored very easily with life, and so when I get too stuck in a routine, I need things that kind of shake it up. So one of those things was that. Another thing was for me, when you asked me if I wanted to battle together, I have a lot of respect for you as a creative and as a person, like as a family man, everything, you know, like I love the way that you operate your life. And so when you asked me if I were down for me, I was like, dude, I would love to represent with you. So that was like another aspect of it. As far as where I was with dance, I think earlier that year, I had been in Vancouver and they had the Red Bull qualifiers. So I was there with a friend because she was invited by Red Bull to be like a creator there. And so she brought me on to help like document her being there. And while I was there, I was able to not only like see people dance, but I also was like basically one of the people that worked at Red Bull and my friend were like, yo, like you should enter. And I was like, damn, I haven't entered in so long, but
But were you
like I'm
training?
here, like not really, no.
Okay, keep.
Yeah. Yeah. So I entered with like no training and I was like, do I want to do it? Kind of not really, but like if I don't do it, I might regret it because like when am I gonna be able to be back here doing this like in this kind of space? So I'm like, sure, I'll do it. So I went, I competed, and then I did better than I thought, but I didn't do as well as I wanted to. So I didn't even make it past prelims for that one.
Hmm.
And there were a lot of people that were in like that were even entered in that one. And then not long after that, I know somebody who is he's from Toronto. He works with Red Bull as well, and he was, I guess, organizing some part of the event. So the part of the event he was organizing was the East Coast versus West Coast battle that was
Right.
going to be live streamed because the finals for Red Bull was going to be like the day after the qualifiers or something like that. And so I'm filming with my friend and Phil, and they're doing a YouTube video. And he comes in, he's like, "Yo, Patrick, what are you doing like tonight or tomorrow or something like that?" And I was asking my friend because I was there to record. I'm like, "Yo, are we doing anything?" And she's like, "No." I was like, "Are you sure? Like, we got nothing going on." And she's like, "Yeah." So I told him, I was like, "Oh, like we don't really have anything going on. I'm chilling. Wow, what's up?" He's like, "We have an East versus West battle. I don't know if you want to do that." And for me, I don't know if you like as a dancer, if you go into a cipher and you did bad, or if you go into a battle and do bad, you kind of want to like fix that. You want to like come
Redeem
back.
yourself.
Yeah, yeah. So I was very much like, okay, I did pretty shitty and I didn't make it past prelims. So I want to represent better at the East Coast versus West Coast because yeah, I'm like I need to redeem myself. So I did that.
You
That
have
was
footage
really
of
fun,
that?
and that was like sorry.
You have footage of
Um,
it?
it was live stream, so there is footage. I don't know if do I have my own
If you come
footage?
across the
I might
link,
have my own.
send it to me. I'm just curious. I just want to see it, but whenever you can.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So even like then, you'll see that the dancing was a little different. Like you can tell that my movement wasn't as fluid as usual and
Mhm.
all that, but I was like, I need to do this. So I did it. It was all right. It was better than the prelim. So I was like, oh, cool. I came back from that and I was like, dude, like I need to do better. So that was the moment where I was like, dude, like I gotta start training again. So I tried starting to train again, and then video stuff catches up, right? And then you hit me up being like, yo, do you wanna battle? And I was like, yeah, I'm down. Cause mentally I was in that place where I'm like, I need to redeem myself.
Right.
And then yeah, and so I trained here and there, but not as much as I should have. And then leading up to like seeing you come into Florida and like the battle, we really didn't like have the opportunity to get down. So I remember showing up to the battle that day and being like, yo, like I'm kind of rusty. I don't know how this is gonna go. And yeah, like the whole time I was like, dude, I have no idea because I don't even know how my body's gonna perform. Like I've been lifting, but I hadn't been doing like any mobility stuff, flexibility stuff, like any of that. So we showed up, ciphered a little bit, and I was like, okay, like I actually feel pretty good. And I think what helped a lot was the fact that it was a scene that didn't know who I was. So I
Right.
was coming in with no expectations placed on me as to how I should be or who I should be. And so I moved freely. You know what I mean? I was very much like, I didn't care if I didn't do a move a specific way. Nobody's seen it before. So
Right.
nobody knows that it's not that way. So I think that released a lot of pressure from me and I was able to perform in a way that like was free, more like better. Like I performed, I did things that battle that like I don't even do now. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And it was because yeah, yeah, like even the Flare to 2000 for example, like I didn't do it wasn't super clean, but I did a spin, I came out of it and I continued going and it was just like it was fluid, you know what I mean? So it was like I look back at that battle, I'm like, damn, like I loved how I performed there because it was different and it was from a place of free thought
Right.
versus like constricted, feeling like I might be judged. You know what I mean?
Right. No, that's awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
that's man, I can go into rabbit holes of the feeling that you get from ciphering, from battling, performing, and just to know that, like, in the partnership of that battle, that besides winning it, that you got to experience like freedom of self. That's the win right there, right? Because
Yeah.
that's the reason for myself that I still continue to dance in my life is because
Love that.
it's the one art form that I can continue to venture off into and always evolve, always change, and always explore freedom. Like not so much
Yeah.
of a freedom of nothingness, but like what else is there that I could try, that I could do? And
Yeah.
because I have that capacity as a dancer, that filters through everything that I do as a creative individual too. It's like, oh yeah, I could do this, but then I can also do this, and then I could do power, I could do footwork. Oh, what if you put on house music? You put on house music. What if you did it all
Right.
stuff? What if you, there's just so much into the conversation and movement, but then take that concept and then put it into a camera. Bro,
Right.
it's
Yeah.
it's a lot.
like the similarities of the two. I don't know. It's just like an exploration that goes on forever. Like there's no ceiling for either of the things. Like for camera stuff, for dance, there's no ceiling. You can explore all different types of movement, and there will still be more movements.
Right.
And if there aren't more movements in that moment, there are more movements that can be created. And it's just like there's just no limit to how far you can go with those things. And I find that's why it's so engaging, so captivating, but also so fulfilling because it's like you constantly get that state of progress, even if you're not feeling good one day, like there's still ways to progress. There's still ways to learn and check that out. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I think that also another thing is that like after that battle, bro, that was that battle. That was the battle for me where I was like, yo, like maybe I'm actually dope. Like maybe I there's something here. You know what I mean? And so that started like me actually consistently training.
Right.
So when I got back home after that battle, I was like, dude, like I didn't train and we won that battle. And I was like, that doesn't feel right. Like I feel like you'd be a disservice and disrespectful to people who like entered and train for me to just like come in like win the jam and then not do anything about it after. So I was like, dude, like that was also a moment where I was like, dude, I need to redeem myself still. Like I need to make sure I earn this win because I feel like I didn't deserve it. So
Hmm.
that's when I started training more consistently again, and I got into a headspace of like battling more again. So for example, like the year after that, I went back to Red Bull to do the qualifier in Vancouver, and I think this time I made top 16, which still is like pretty cool. And then I did a few more battles that I felt like I battled the best that I ever did. Like I got to a point where I was like, yo, this is the best that I've ever performed in a battle based on like the free thought and not feeling judged. And like I wouldn't have had those I wouldn't have known how to tap into that if it wasn't for our battle in Miami. So
That's
yeah.
awesome, man. That's actually really cool to hear. How did it
Yeah.
feel battling like alongside me with contrast styles?
Dude, I loved it. I actually loved it. Like watching you dance, bro, and being on the same team, I got so hyped because for me, I know that I dance more like strength focused and like more like power and like very explosive. You have such a what is the word? Your style is very like intricate and you take note of a lot of details and you're very good at like isolated movements. So you'll like point to something and you'll move that like joint, for example, and then you'll like break it down and it's very like it's very big brain the way that you dance. And knowing that there was that contrast, it actually gave me confidence during the battle because I'm like, I don't have big brain moves. And I always feel like, shoot, like I need some big brain moves, but I just don't think that same way. So when I saw you do that, I was like, sick, like we covered each other, you know what I mean? Like I felt like it was balanced because we did that. Like I would still to this day like hop in a battle with you again, like over and over again, bro. That shit was so fun.
Yeah, hell yeah, man. Yeah, I have this
Yeah.
with so many injuries in my life, I try not to go into high impact movements anymore. So I don't
Yeah.
train power. I mean, I still train power. I just don't train it for battle purposes
Right.
because one, I'll be honest, my ego can't handle it. My brain is like, yeah, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do it hard every day. And then like 5 days later, I'm like,
I feel
oh dude, my back hurts. So I've just
you.
kind of
Yeah.
learned to kind of bring myself back and just focus in
Right.
areas that are physically healthy for me. So what was good is to be next to you and say, all right, he can handle those blow ups, and I can
Yeah.
just work on the musicality and and my intricacies, my creativity, which is nice when you are given like the creative freedom to do so and know that the other side is covered. You're like, oh, okay, cool. Like you don't have the stress that you would be like, oh my gosh, I gotta have these moves, and I gotta be musical. Battling gets
Yeah.
stressful. I get it, man.
Dude, there's so much more strategy than I thought that goes into battling too. Like I was talking to one of my mentors from before for breaking, and when I first started hearing them talk about strategy in a battle, I was like, "Yo, like there's strategy in this." I thought you just go and throw what you think is dope, but nah, they're like, "Nah, the first round you do something dope. The second round you like can chill out a little bit. The third round you want to blow it up." And I'm like, "Whoa!" Like I didn't know there was all this technicality and like thought process behind the way to approach a battle
Yeah.
to increase the chances of winning. You know what I mean?
It's the art of war, dude. The art of war. Okay, so here's where I'll try to transition us back, right?
Yes.
Uh it was also a moment that we got to film.
Yeah.
And for me, that's one of my joys of what it is that I get to do. I
Right.
I love documenting life. more than I like capturing life, if that makes sense, right?
Okay, that makes sense.
Uh,
Yeah, yeah,
but my job is to capture stuff. I've just learned to kind of merge it into kind of the same conversation. But to
right,
me, there was this like blurred line of there's something that we were documenting, simultaneously something that we were creating. I'm just
right.
curious on like where your brain goes in those moments. Are you worried about camera? Are you worried about the shots? I don't know. Is there any concern as far as the camera in your performance? Is there a connectivity of
Ooh,
relationship there? What is that like for you? Because it's a weird thing for a lot of people. Some people are great performers,
yeah,
but they have no clue on how to record it. And then some people are great at recording, but they're not great performance, right? So we did a battle, we won, and so which I mean that's saying it's the best in the world, but it was a good performance for the night. So in your
right.
performance and then recording it, where does your mind go in that process?
So, ooh, I like the idea of documenting like life as it is. I'm not very good at it.
Hmm.
So the reason I'm not very good at it is because I am like in cases where I should be documenting or should be like recording myself, I'm much more in tune with like doing what I'm doing in that moment.
Right,
So in that moment, I didn't think about the cameras at all. Like for me, whenever I'm battling and I have like a camera somewhere, my mind is just like the camera's just there.
right,
Like I just care about doing the battle as best as possible. You know what I mean?
right,
Like, oh, what are the other things? Like when I'm like at the gym lifting and I want to create content, I very much am like, dude, I just want to lift. Like I just want to be doing the thing.
right,
So I think even when the camera is out, I stay in that mindset where it's like, I just want to be doing the thing.
right.
So luckily for that, the cameras didn't affect my performance. It didn't make me want to do anything better. It didn't make me kind of like nervous and do things worse. I think for me, it was just like I was just so encapsulated in the energy of like, yo, me and my boy are fucking battling together
Right.
and we're in this space and everybody is hype. And for me, it's a foreign space. So I get to prove myself in this place where everybody's just like sending energy. And that's where my head was at. Yeah, I wasn't thinking about the cameras at all.
That's amazing. So this is where I call it a lens break. It's like the
Yes.
lens is there, but then it cracks and you're like, oh shit, I don't know what world I'm living in right now. Am I living
Yeah,
behind the
yeah, yeah.
camera or in front of the camera? So
Right.
there's this like weird moment for me where I'm working on a project, client hires me to do something, and I have it
Right.
captured. I framed it, lit it a certain way, or maybe even a
Yeah.
DP is there and they're working on it. And I decide to put another camera somewhere just to capture stuff. And
Right.
like 9 times out of 10, that camera has the best shot. And not like the best shot
Oh, yeah.
cinematic. It has the best shot to capture the energy that I'm after, right? Because to me, sharing and telling stories is about the energy, the space, right? It's the
Right.
feeling.
Right.
It's if you can capture the feeling and then present it and communicate it, that's what it's about. So I
Yeah.
have this weird space for my life that now I'm, while I'm just capturing things and documenting it,
Right.
it is part of process. It just is. But I'm thinking about it in this like I'm not
Yeah.
thinking about it because I'll be like, here, hold this camera, just record it, or I'll put it down in the corner, some random place. But I also know it's
Yeah.
being filmed somewhere else, like nice and professionally. But that shot usually
Right.
has the most authentic, organic, natural feeling. And that to me, that's kind of what changed my world as a creator. Um,
Yeah.
it's almost like does your family have what's the word I'm looking for? Like home videos from like when you were a kid?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. They do. I haven't seen a lot of them, but they do have them.
Right. So if you ever come across them, there's this like, I can't believe you have this footage, right? I can't believe you like there's this, but there's this essence in there, right? That it brings you a
Right.
certain feeling. That feeling right
Yeah.
there is what I realized what I love about capturing and documenting life. And I'm
Yeah.
curious to know for yourself, um, like in your creative process when you think about filming okay, let's start with you because filming content for a client
Okay.
and filming content for yourself are
Very
similar but
different. Yeah.
different, right? So when it
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
comes to you, what does your process look like? And not in comparison to mine. I'm just curious of what your process looks like. Is it like heavy pre-production, thought out writing stuff? Is it do I draw it out? Do I make my lighting schemes? I don't know. I'm just curious on what that looks like.
Yeah. Dude, I envy the people that can create content for themselves and have a whole bunch of pre-production. Like, um, Life of Riza, she does a lot of pre-production. It seems like I think I've watched some of her videos. She talks about how she storyboards her like videos. She like plans them.
Right.
I envy that so hard because I can't do that. Like,
Right.
I have tried planning content for myself, and every time I do it, I dread it. Like whenever it comes to filming it, I dread it because for me, it ends up feeling inauthentic to me because my way of living life is just like I'm doing it, I want to do it. It's difficult for me to like stop, set up a camera, frame it, and then do the thing that I wanted to do because now it's like this whole extra step that I've taken. Whereas if I lived a regular life, it's just like I don't have to worry about that. So when it comes to my personal process, dude, like I actually found out recently. So Black Friday was recently. I did a little like unboxing in my room. And that for me was like the most fun I've had creating personal content in a long time
Mm.
because there was no plan. I had a plan for the videos that I wanted to do, which was like the top 5, but I had the camera set up and the lighting set up already and I was like, yeah, I might as well just unbox this on camera, you know what I mean? And just everything that was coming out of my mouth while I was doing it was just me being natural. Like me getting to be like my most natural self in a space where like doesn't feel doctored. That
Right.
for me is where I think I feel the most fulfilled in creating. And what's difficult about that is that like sometimes there is no like form or structure in a way that people say like, oh, YouTube videos have to have this specific structure to be engaging, or like a video on Instagram Reels has to be like this specific in order to keep people's attention like throughout the whole process. So like in that space of wanting to be like 100% authentic, you don't really get that structure as much. And that's why I have a hard time creating because I'm like, I can create stuff that's true to me, but it doesn't perform. And if it takes extra time for me to do, it's like a turn off for me.
I get it. I don't know if I'm right in
Yeah.
saying this, but this is what I hear, and this is where I guess I land on the topic.
Right, right,
You are filming the way that you dance.
right.
That's kind of how it lands.
Yeah,
Because in dance, there's like a preparation aspect. Like you prepare, you study, you work on things,
yeah,
but there's like a big letting go of in just being in the moment. And I would go as far as to say is that you're like a freestyle filmmaker in a way, while some
yeah,
people are really good at kind of pre-planning a thought and bringing it to life. Others are better at improving, essentially, right?
yeah,
Where here's the moment and I can figure it out on the fly. And then you look at your footage, you're like, that was pretty good for on the fly. And you get kind of addicted to
yeah.
that feeling, right?
Yes.
Um, where do you land on that as far as like the concept of like a freestyle filmmaker? I don't even know if that's like even a thing. We should invent it. And
Yeah. Yeah, dude, I know exactly what you mean though, because especially when I first started doing video, everything I did was run and gun. Everything I did was not thought out, and I ended up looking at the footage and being like, okay, let's put something together with this.
right,
And it was dope because you could. It was like opening a gift, right? It was opening a gift that you had the parts to, and it was nice because it's a surprise. It feels fulfilling because you're like, yo, like out of everything that was unplanned, I was able to tell this kind of story. But over time as I did more like filmmaking, I realized that that was so inefficient because it takes longer to edit if you have nothing planned. If you have something planned, you get the shots you need, you put it together the way it's planned, and then you're good. But when it comes down to freestyling it, it's just it's like pulling at straws sometimes. You know what I mean? Like I've had many moments where I'm like, if only I had this particular shot, or I've had moments where I'm like, dude, like I have all these shots, but I don't have the one that I want, and I wouldn't have known that I'd want that if I didn't. If like, I wouldn't have known I'd want that unless I had something planned out.
right,
And then I found that like when I had a planned out video, it would end up looking sick. I could go through, be efficient with like the whole process. Filming it takes longer,
right.
but the end result, even if it's sicker, doesn't feel as fulfilling
Hmm.
because
Yeah.
it's I knew it was coming. You know what I mean? it was like when I do the pre-planning, I look at it, I'm like, spoiler alert, and then I put it together and I'm like, well, it was already spoiled, so I kind of knew it was happening. And like I'll do so much like the transitions in a video that is planned are so much more intentional, are so much more tasteful. That is fun. But when it comes down to the full video as a whole, it's like, damn, like that was less fulfilling than when I do run and gun, put something together really dope. But again, like the time sensitive thing is the big differentiator for me, you know?
No, I get it. I get it, man. It's a tough one
Yeah.
because especially working with clients. Clients, you have to be, you got to dot your I's, put your periods, and make sure you're punctual within your work. And a part of you has to find the balance between uh, making sure that you can create the way that you create best, and then also fulfilling what your client's needs are, right? I
Yeah.
don't know how you navigated through it, but I would like to hear your take on it. What I've decided to do is pretty much every production, I have two different productions in the same production,
Okay.
which is I'm going
Oof.
to do what I need to do professionally, like cover all my bases, like get my clean audio, get
Right.
my establishing shots, do my drone stuff, get B-roll, like
Yeah.
all the stuff that I know I'm going to need for this film, for this video.
Right.
Then I go,
Right.
now I'm just gonna walk around handheld because that's gonna be the most fun that I'm gonna have on this shoot. And most of
Right.
my real raw moments of creating anything come from that. Is that
I agree.
something that you do, or how do you approach it?
Dude, most of my even client work, a lot of this stuff is handheld because
That's
again, I
amazing that
feel like,
you were a handheld shooter, dude. You have a steady freaking hand, my friend.
bro, it's because when I couldn't afford a gimbal, I was
Right.
like, I need to learn to become the gimbal.
Yeah. Did you learn
Yeah, it's
that?
just like
Did you learn that like from the get-go, or was that like a couple years in?
it was like very early on because very early on I saw people show up with all the gear. I very much was like I was working a part-time job, not working many hours. And in the beginning I was just doing it for fun. So I practiced, I did it for fun. I found that when I was editing, the shaky videos like really bothered me. I was like, dude, this looks really unprofessional and this looks kind of distracting when it was extremely shaky when it wasn't supposed to be.
Right.
So I started like just learning to be very, very steady without like a gimbal. Because for me, I wanted to like my philosophy with a lot of things I think in life is to make the most out of what you have, right? Like I don't want to just default to, oh, like I don't have this, I'm gonna buy one. For me, it was like, okay, like I don't have this. How am I going to get what I need with what I have right now? Like, what can I do? And I think that alone has helped me learn so much more when it comes to like filmmaking, but even just like problem solving when it comes to like day-to-day things, you know what I mean?
No, I get it. It's like it's not about having the best, it's just making making the best. Uh
Like making do.
ma- uh okay, it's not about having the best, it's about doing the best you can with what you have, right?
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I totally resonate with that because, dude,
Yeah.
I'm a shitty rig king. I love making rigs that make
Yeah.
no sense. I'm using gaffer's tape and putting up pillows, and I need to block out
I
these
love
windows. Let me just put bed sheets on it. Like I
Yeah.
love that. And to me, I don't know. That's kind of like performance breaking versus like raw cipher battling, right? There's
Yeah.
this
Yeah. Yeah.
there's like this edge of like this is what it means to just want to create something. I'm just gonna whatever I got in this room, I'm gonna make it. I don't know. I love that.
Yes.
Love that aspect. And I try to pull that into everything that I do creatively. And to be honest, not every client loves it. Let me ask you,
Yeah.
do you feel like your client work is kind of blurred line merged into the stuff that you like to create? Take a second to think about that while I restart my camera.
Oh.
Okay, so do you feel like your work with clients or paid commission work
Mhm.
is at the place where now the work that you like to do or the way that you
Right.
like to create is at the same place?
Yeah. Oof. I think I'm very lucky in this regard because a lot of clients come to me specifically wanting the way that I create.
Hmm.
So a lot of times I don't have to kind of fit a different formula because the clients that come to me usually have seen my work through other work that I've done through like other creators or other clients. And they like the way that I create. So I think in many cases I have that freedom, and so in that way I would say there's an alignment, but it's still not like exactly what it is I want to create. I think the stuff that I would want to create, funny enough, I mentioned that like the freestyling is just kind of innately what I do best.
Right.
I actually want to do more of the planned stuff. Like it
Interesting.
comes a lot more difficult to me, but I think that you're able to get like objectively prettier images.
Dude, in the past 6 months, I have like a completely different viewpoint about what it is that I do professionally, personally, and
Right.
just artistically. And now I'm like, dude, I have 2025 is going to be the year where I completely change as an artist. And I'm really looking forward to it, but I'm also like, whoa, man, there's so much that I'm just gonna jump, like just dive headfirst into, man. It's gonna
Yeah.
be fun.
I feel like it's intimidating, but it's that good intimidation where you're like, this is how I know this is the right place to go because something's keeping me from it. And it just feels like an anxious excitement, but not anxious in a way where it's like, yo, I'm gonna pass out. But it's like anxious in a way where it's like, dude, like this is it. This is the hump that I'm getting over. Like that feeling, you know?
Yeah, man. I mean, going back to dance stuff, I mean, when you're a dancer, you're a performer, right? There's a
Right.
different practice and discipline that goes into performing.
Right.
As a storyteller creatively with the camera, it's a even the hours are different of how you navigate through, right? It's just a different lifestyle, a different approach. So when you put those two things together and you're like, well, I could do both, you just kind of have this what is possible? You know, like what else is? If you can perform and you understand how to become a better performer simultaneously, I can create. I don't have to wait for anybody. And now we're at this place in this world where people like that we're at the medium where the world is made for those people that can perform,
Yeah,
that can write, that can create, that can produce, that could do all of it. And you're one of those people too, you know? So I'm very curious to know where your career goes. Um, just kind of
me
backtrack.
too. To be honest.
Where, um, what's the big picture for you? I mean,
Like
I
wherever my
assume you're already living bits and pieces of it. What's the big picture for you? Like, where do you see yourself at this? Like, at this stage is where I really want to be at as a creative storyteller.
yeah, dude, it's crazy because there's so much more that I want to do. I
Mm,
feel like I haven't even really scratched the surface of what it is that I should be doing. And video is one of those things for me that I know for a fact that I'll be doing it like for the rest of my life just because I enjoy it. Like I don't specifically want to do client work for the rest of my life, but
right,
I want to be creating and putting things together that can create like impact for the rest of my life. You know what I mean?
right.
And at the very least, I want to be documenting memories and be able to piece together a narrative for like my loved ones to look back at and like feel that feeling that we felt when we were in that moment. So big picture of where things are going for me. So I talked about the primary goals that I had, right? The three primary goals. So something I want to do is I want to practice and learn DaVinci color grading. So that's
Okay.
like a very specific goal. You've been trying to get me on that for a while, so finally coming to that time.
It's
Another one
inevitable, bro.
is
It's inevitable. I
yeah,
don't even
right.
do it myself anymore. I outsource it now.
Yeah, I mean, it takes so much time, right? Like
Yeah, man. Well,
you
there's
can do
people
so
that
much with
just
it.
are so good at it, and it's the only thing they do. So if I could just put
Yeah,
it in the budget for a project and outsource it, it saves me a lot of time.
dude, that makes a big difference. I know. I definitely need to be able to factor that into budgets and stuff because for me, so far, the budgets that I'm getting are good. I think I'm very into the idea of like these are good budgets, but I want to do it by myself. And which actually leads me to the second primary goal that I have, which is expanding on like the production company side, where I want to get better at delegating because I see it as if I can delegate more, it frees up more time for me to do the things that can help me continue to build. You know what I mean? And so like if if the client work is stuff that I do, I think a long time ago you told me that there were things called the meal projects and the real projects,
Yeah, one for the meal,
right?
one for the real. Yep.
Yeah. So you taught me this a long time ago. And the way I see it right now is a lot of the stuff that I'm doing for clients is for the meal.
Right.
Like, if not all of it. Because if I really like narrow it down, none of them hit exactly what it is that I want to create. Like I want to be able to create a lot more like creative stuff. I want to be able to apply myself more the things that I've learned. I want the time to be able to like plan things, execute them in like however long I need, edit them in a way that I'm like, yo, this is masterful and like go through all those processes and like sit with them without feeling rushed to do so. So because of that, I feel like I'm not able to apply myself in like my full capacity with a lot of these client projects. So I find that that is for me considered like the meal project. The hardest thing for me is like when I'm delegating, I'm paying people to do that, right? And it's like I like being able to pay people, but I also like making money. So it kind of like it teeters, you know what I mean? It's like I'm making less
Mm.
if I'm paying people out. And the thing for me is that like money isn't even my main thing that I want to make. It's just like a necessity to live in today's economy. You know what I'm trying to say? So it's like, yeah. So the production company is a second thing. That's one of the big things I want to focus on. The third thing is something that may be surprising because I'm just trying to like really wrap my head around it too. Dude, I want to do a course. I want to like create a video course and release it and like build a community around like creation and share knowledge.
I
So
love
that's
it.
like the third thing that I want to do. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, not to get too deep into business talk, but the thriving businesses right now are the ones that have a full ecosystem around what it is they do. Product and
Yeah.
service is not surviving like it used to, and it's
Right.
not going to survive alone. Like if you only have a production company that's just service based, what happens when inflation happens, right? People
Right.
can't afford because marketing in a lot of ways is a luxury for people. It's not the
Yeah.
center of people's company. So, you always have to think of various ways to create income. So as a creator, you have the opportunity to create ad revenue for yourself. You could create merchandise if you build a brand. But the idea of reeling people into an educational program is kind of where a lot of things are at today. How you
I
do
agree.
it differently than everybody else is what is going to make you unique. Um,
Yeah.
and I definitely think this is another conversation that we should have like more in depth because my brain has been in this space, especially as like a community leader in like dance culture. I just want to bring that
Yeah.
energy into what it is that I do. One thing that I loved about at least my dance journey would be just like being in a place of leadership to bring a community together to build something. And out of that,
Yeah.
when I see the people that came through the doors of the events that I was able to put together with my wife, and you see where they landed, there was this man, like I can never take credit for their talent or their hard work, but it's
Right.
just such an honor to know that those people came through your doors. And in
Yes.
some shape or way, you know that whatever you made, the opportunity to educate people, right? Especially in how we learn as artists.
Right.
I call it circular education. We don't learn in
Okay.
rows. We learn as a
Yeah.
community. Um,
Yes.
so I don't know, I get teary about it sometimes, just thinking about people that come through those spaces and then they end up in these like crazy careers and big stages and you
Yeah.
just wow, they came through those doors. And maybe those
Yeah.
moments that they met somebody at your event or they saw a performance or they saw something that changed them to go in that direction. So I get
Right.
it, man. To have an influence in education is a to be a teacher is a whole nother craft in itself, man. So I commend you for
Yeah.
even feeling those feelings.
I mean, dude, you have so much experience in so many different like disciplines in life too. I think from the first time that we met and all the conversations we had walking around Aventura, dude, one of the biggest things that I picked up on you and your wife is that you guys are so good at fostering community and not even just like fostering a community period, but fostering a community that's like healthy, that actually cares for one another. Like that's impressive, dude, because not everybody can do that.
I appreciate that, man. We definitely
Yeah.
take pride in the work that we do, and we've stepped away from it, since we started our family. And
Right.
now we're at this place of like realizing how big it plays a part of our relationship, a part of our family, and a part of
Nice.
just our workflow. So I'm in an
Yeah,
interesting
yeah, yeah.
space, especially for this new year of like what I want to launch and what I want to do. And again, we'll have to have a sit down bigger conversation about that because I would love to include you in any way that I can into that because I think it's profound in what we do as dancers, but then also as
Yeah.
people creatively telling stories. I did
Yeah.
want to backtrack. You were talking about how working with clients and working with yourself. It,
Yeah. Yeah.
this is I guess you could say it's advice, but I think you just need to change your title that you call yourself because
Interesting.
when you're the person that is the holding the camera, you're
Okay.
technically cinematographer, right?
Okay.
And being the cinematographer, you have certain roles. But then being cinematographer, then you give yourself the footage and you become the editor, right?
Right.
So you are wearing a lot of hats. But because you're
Yeah.
wearing a lot of hats, you have a lot of experience. So now all you have to do is take all that experience and put it into another vocation. And that other vocation is either to be a writer, a producer, or a director. And
Right.
how that works in today's age is very open. It's not like
Yeah.
let's just be a filmmaker and put a feature together. It's very open. This past year, I feel really like I can't believe I got to do the work that I was able to do, which is essentially write, direct, and produce other people's content for other brands and
Dude, good
for
for you.
other
Yeah.
businesses. But that's what I mean, and a lot of it was not
Mhm.
my hands, right? Like as far as like,
Right.
I mean, it wasn't, but you get what I mean. There's this essence of like when you can take a step back and give yourself, essentially, just give yourself a different title because you have all that experience. Then once
Yeah.
you learn to communicate it, to delegate it, you open another avenue of not just income, but another artistry underneath your belt.
Right. Right. Funny enough, the biggest challenge I have with delegating is because I've been lucky enough to build a certain reputation, people like to come to me for my specific work. And a lot of times I want to delegate, but it's like I feel like if I do, I let them down. And it's you know what I mean? So I think that's my challenge with delegating is that a lot of people come to me specifically like for me. And I want to step back from that because I'm like, you can't scale that. You can't scale being that person that's working on every single thing because we have limited time. So that's my challenge there. I'm learning to be open with that. And I think that I'm hoping the course also plays into that. So with the course, what were the three? With the course, I want to build a community. With that, I want to be able to find opportunities to work more closely with people, even if they're just learning, and then eventually have more of a circle of people who understand like a certain way of thinking when it comes to like video production, for example, and the people that actually enjoy that method, I would want to give them opportunities to apply that method, basically.
Right. No, I get what you're saying. Man, I feel
Yeah.
I'm so curious on where you go in this past year. Okay. Let's do some wrap ups. Okay. What's the one
Yeah.
project that you could say that you're like, man, I can't believe I worked on that this year from 2024?
Oh, see, funny enough, dude, I forget a lot of my projects that I've done. I haven't shared like most of my client work. I haven't shared.
Yeah, I get it.
So
You also sometimes you
like
have NDAs you can't, so I get it.
dude, I don't have NDAs. I just haven't shared them. I just feel like they don't represent me well. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
tough. I mean, I got a chance to work with Gymshark, which is cool,
Hmm.
but that was for a specific thing. It was photos, so it wasn't one of those where I'm like, "Yo, this is dope. Like this is exactly what I wanted." I'm very grateful for it, but it wasn't like exactly what I was going for. I mean, last year I did a project with Monster that was pretty fun.
Nice.
Um, yeah, I
Okay,
do a lot
so
more
from
working
what
with
I'm hearing,
now.
we are still tiptoeing to these are the projects that Patrick Warpath wants to work on, right?
Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
man.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so where's like still in the I don't want to say introductory, but the a certain stage of your career that we have yet to see like a full capacity of your capabilities. This is really interesting. This is
Yeah.
interesting.
Dude, I
Be-
appreciate that. You make it sound like I'm not at my final form, and I love that.
No, dude, I mean, I look. I look at your work and I think that you're extremely talented in what you do. I don't think that you're fully aware of how well you network. Like I'm always like, if I was to network, how would Patrick network? That's how I think sometimes. Like I always
Dude, I
think
appreciate that, bro, because I feel like you're so good at that too.
it's different. We just have different approaches to it, man. I'm a socially awkward person in a lot of ways, but you're a very open person in conversation to a lot of people, and you have a very wide network. Humbly, I will say that's something that I look up to. Um,
I
but
appreciate that, bro. Wow.
I think that you're a type of creator that, man, I don't want to say too much because I don't want to jinx it, but I think that I think that the moment that you realize how unique and different and talented that you are, I think that we'll experience a lot of like, whoa, I can't believe this dude just made that type of thing. Um,
Yeah, I appreciate that, bro.
I'm curious on, okay, let's just say 2025, right? A lot of
Yeah.
times, how do I want to phrase this? A lot of times, what happens is you only create when you're gonna get paid for something, right? And
Okay.
I'm not saying that's you. I'm just saying that's
Yeah, yeah,
a
yeah.
thing we all go through, right?
Right.
And I've realized in this past year that, especially this past year with moving to Georgia, no one
Yeah.
can tell me when to create, and not even a paycheck can tell me when to create. I just have to
Right.
always be creating something. And some of them I'm proud of, and
Yes.
some of them I was like, well, that was cool. And some of it is like, no one will see this will not see the light of day, but I will still create it,
Right.
right? I'm
Right. Right. Right.
curious for you if there was some sort of expectation of timeline. Like every month I'm going to put out this, or every week I'm going to do this, right? So like for me,
Yeah.
doing the daily vlog was every day I'm going to create something. I'm going to put something out.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm curious, is that something on your on the forefront for you? Because that'd be something that I would love to see.
So funny enough, I feel like when I do that, I want to create less.
Hmm.
It's like when I'm trying to be a more structured person because you need that in order to build something, you need it to grow.
Right.
But I find that when there's structure or when I feel like there's too much structure and expectation around like my creative process, I have a hard time feeling driven to do it because I feel like it's an obligation now and not like a level of freedom. So yeah, dude, like
You need to
funny
be a
enough, so
rebel
one of the
to
reasons why,
yourself.
sorry?
You need to be a rebel to yourself. You know, does that make sense? Like because you know
I know what you're
not
saying.
to do the
Yeah,
things you tell yourself to do. All right, so like for example, right? I don't like
yeah,
going to the gym and doing the same workouts every week. I find
right.
it boring, especially as a dancer. You're like, I want to try
Yes,
different things. But the
yeah,
consistency is I'm going to show up every day. Do I do the same things? No.
right,
Right? So as long as you
right.
give yourself this structure of consistency, in the consistency, you could be sporadic. You could be inconsistent in your
That's
consistency,
true.
right? So
I
like
like
whatever
that.
that is.
Yeah,
So even if it's not even about I'm gonna make this film, if it's like, you know what, I'm gonna travel every month. And in traveling,
right.
what happens? How do you create? And it may change every time. I don't know. I'm just so curious on what that looks like for you.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. There was a point when I was doing like day one and bringing my camera with me everywhere I go and stuff like that. And those were really fun because those were like there was a theme of like, oh, I'm bringing my camera, like what am I gonna do? And then I was able to tell stories through that, and I really, really enjoyed that. I think when
Right.
that stopped was when I started taking more time with like the video work, like the client work.
Right.
So one of the reasons why I want to expand on like the video production company is also to free up time so I can do more creative work like that again. Like apply myself in ways that I want to. And like, I just want to open up time for myself to do that again. I feel like I've taken a lot of time away from it. And to find a balance of like, oh, doing my creative work, but also making like an income, a living is something that I very much want to find that balance of and then see where that creative takes me. Cause like you said, like I haven't really gotten to tap in fully to that creative side as much as I want to just yet. And it's just like I've experimented a lot and I've tried a lot of different things. And so it's kind of a situation of like a mile wide and inch deep.
Mm,
But as time goes on, I'm finding out where it is I want to go deeper. And when everything is in place, I think it's going to be like an exponential, but it's a matter of like creating that atmosphere for myself where I'm like, okay, I'm making an income. I've delegated and the income is still here and it's still stable. And I've created like relationships that don't feel like they're being taken advantage of. I created relationships where like we all respect each other. Now there's time for me to like build something else and like really express myself the way that I want to. You know what I mean? Because I think there's been a moment where I had to put the client work to the side and focus all on like the creative work. And dude, I didn't have a proper direction. I was like doing all these different things. I wasn't able to do anything properly because I was so in the head of like, oh, I got to create something that will work. And if I don't make it work, then I'm wasting my time because I'm sacrificing money for that. So when I take that money idea out of the equation, I want to see where like the creativity aspect goes, you know?
Man, what you're talking about to me is the conflict and the overall romantic conversation of what it feels like to hold a camera. Because
Yeah.
in one sense, you want to express yourself, right? To express yourself,
Right.
to share a feeling, to share a story, to tell a story. The other side of
Right.
it is, but if I make something, I need an audience, right?
Yeah.
That's an inevitable thing, and also yeah, it's great to create something, but if nobody watches it, it's a feeling, right?
Exactly.
But
Hmm.
and that's where you kind of start to play around with this like, oh, I get what these filmmakers are doing professionally, which is
Yeah.
they realize that you need an audience. Not only do you need an
Yeah.
audience, it needs to make money for there to be an audience. So
Yeah.
there's like a weird conflict and conversation, but to me, that is the art form. Like it is like
Right.
is knowing that if I lean too far into just the money, I'm losing my voice. But if I lean too far
Yes.
into just my voice, I'm omitting listening to the other important aspects, like making sure people
Exactly.
listen to my voice, right? So
Yes.
that's where like marketing and branding comes in and working with certain companies and collaborating with other artists. I mean,
Right.
you could be the best DP, you could be the best director, but at some point you kind of realize for this to become much bigger, it has to be bigger than myself at some point.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
where every creator has to kind of answer that question for themselves. Like, what does that look like for you? So everything you're talking
Yeah.
about, it's not foreign, it's not good or bad. It just is. But I also think that as
Yeah.
long as you just know that it's part of the conversation, you're in good hands, man. You're fine.
Dude, I appreciate that. I've been thinking about that a lot lately, and I'm like, how can I find a way to balance this? And it's like, it's all pieces to a puzzle, you know what I mean? Like in the past, I think I've felt so much pressure because I wanted to rush the process of getting to a certain point. And like, yeah, some people might do it faster, some people might do it slower, but for me to be doing it at a pace where I'm comfortable at, where I still feel fulfilled, I think is the most important part. So me wanting to put like a level of fulfillment and happiness into the equation means a lot because if I don't listen to those things, I'm more susceptible to burning out. I'm more susceptible to just like building a life in a direction where who knows, and maybe I'll wake up one day and I'm like, dude, like I hate what I built. And I would hate to feel that way. Like as an artist specifically, I want to wake up and be like, bro, like I did this. Like
Right.
this is kind of cool. Yeah.
2022, I think. Wait, oh, okay. This is an interesting timeline. Wait,
Yes.
what year did we enter bragging rights together?
2023, no? Or no.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
2023.
okay. So that was in October, November, right? 2023. Oh, this is
Yeah, I think so.
okay. So Bollywood would have been just born, right?
Yeah.
Um, all right. So
Yeah, I remember she was in the stroller.
this is an interesting timeline.
Yeah.
When I started, when I entered that competition, I was
Okay.
at a place of, I'm in my career. I was working at Celsius at the time, uh,
Yes.
where I just left. I'm not sure what happened in in that time frame, but I remember
Yeah,
something
yeah.
was in my life. Like I was
Okay.
doing what I wanted to do, but something was
Right.
off, and I was like, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna dance again because that's the only thing that grounds me to myself. The only thing that grounds me to this place of let me rediscover, let me see what's going on, what am I feeling, what am I thinking, and it teaches me so much about
Right.
life. So
Yeah.
that's where I was at, and I remember
Right.
in the competition, like when we won, and it's a local jam, and it was this feeling of like, oh man, we won. That was a good feeling, but then there was also this
Yeah.
like, is this is this what we're gonna train for? Like, is this what we're gonna wake up to do every day? And there was this other
Yeah.
feeling of, I don't know, man. I think that there's just more that my soul wants to experience. Like I love dance and I
Yeah.
dance to this space now in my life that it's just what I do, but it's not
Right.
for anything. It's just for me. And
Yeah.
as far as what we do, I've come to this place of, man, there's something my soul is after, and at the time, I didn't know what it was. So it's kind of like
Right.
this big bang moment for both of us, I would say.
Yeah.
For me, it was this that moment happened, we won, and I was like, I don't know, I'm gonna keep dancing, but I feel like I'm after something else, and I don't know what this
Right.
is. And that would
Yeah.
probably be like the domino effect of all the things falling, and then me moving to Georgia.
Whoa. So what you said that you now know what it is you were looking for?
Oh, yeah, I have a lot better understanding, but I've definitely understood through this year that I'll never fully know. Like it's an evolving.
Wow.
I mean,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I'm a storyteller. I'm a creative
Right.
storyteller. I love
Yeah.
to be able to take a feeling and express that. And that's
Right.
what an artist does, whether it's a painting, a song, a film, a
Right.
poem, right? If we can
Hmm.
communicate. At the end of the day, it's as simple as that. I just want to be a creative
Yeah.
storyteller. I feel like that's very
Love that.
tribalistic. Way back during caveman days, there was someone that needed to tell
Yeah.
the story. So that's who I am. That's who we are. How that
Right.
happened, I'm a bit of a hybrid. Like I don't like the limitation of what I can do. It's more of like,
Yes.
how else can I tell this story? So can I do it on a
Yeah.
stage?
Yeah.
Could I do it with a
Right.
microphone? Could I do it writing? What if I filmed it? What if I didn't film it? What if I had somebody else film it and I
Right.
wrote it?
Right.
What if what if I starred in it? What if I was in somebody
Yeah.
else's story? You know what I mean? Like there's so many options.
Yeah.
I look at it now as me being in front of the camera, behind the camera, and beside the camera, right? Behind the camera is
Wow.
the
Okay.
production. Beside the camera
Yeah.
is directing what this camera can do and what it can capture.
Yeah.
And in front of it
Right.
is to be captured. So to me, it's this
Right.
circular movement of all three in relationship. But again, I go back to dance. It's the same thing as dance. There's like I could do power, I could do top rock,
Right.
I could do intricacy movements. But then what happens when you change the music? What happens when you stop listening to
Right.
break? Right?
Yeah.
You're kind of like, I don't know. Should I explore that other avenue of music or should I just stay
Right.
in breaks? And
Yeah.
as an
Yeah. Yeah.
artist, I don't like the limitations. I'm very curious on where else I can go. But the center
Like.
of what it is that I do is a storyteller. So
Yeah.
I
Love that.
do think that you have like a bit of that sprinkled into your work. I just don't think that you've said that to self that that's what you do, or if that's what you want to do. I don't know.
Mhm.
I've realized this because I kind of life fell apart in Georgia. Sorry, in Florida, and I had to
Yeah.
sell my house and move to Georgia.
Right.
And when you're in a new space of life, you're just kind of like, fuck it. I don't know. I'm just gonna keep walking and figure
Yeah.
it out. That's
Yeah.
where I'm at creatively. So, but I think the interesting timeline is from that battle.
It's Canada. Yeah.
That battle was probably a beginning domino effect where I realized something's not right in my life, and
Right.
everything just kind of followed from there. And it's pretty
Yeah.
cool and surreal to be sit down and have this conversation like 2 years later.
Yeah. Dude, so that battle was a canon event, bro.
Yeah, man, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. All right. So in
That's
closing,
cool.
because I do want to ask you some other things off camera. Um,
Yes.
okay. What's something that you really want to create this coming year? Um, it's not something that has to be planned. It just a thought, an idea, and then
Yeah.
we'll clock back next year at the end of the year and see if we got it done.
Does the video course count?
Whatever it is that you want to do. At the end of the day, creativity is creativity.
Oh. Okay, the video course is something that I want to create, but that's not a creativity thing. That's like a means to creativity. I think, man, creatively, I just want to be doing more stuff around like movement, like
Mm,
athletes, and honestly, doing something with Gymshark, like video wise, would be sick. Or doing something with a brand that actually works with athletes, I think would be amazing.
nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, we have some things to talk about for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So
How about
capturing
you?
and producing more content around movement.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. I find that like doesn't matter what I do, what I decide, what path I take, my work always comes back to like movement. And I love that because again, like movement is kind of what originally guided me when it came to first holding a camera and learning how to use it. And so like it's been what's differentiated me as an artist
Right.
and I want to keep using it as a way to continue to like build that reputation,
Right. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we'll circle back in the end of 2025 and see where we landed.
Yeah.
That's always an
Yeah.
interesting thing. Very cool. Very interesting. Awesome, man. All right, I'm gonna go turn off my camera and
Yeah, me too, bro.
we'll just have some real talk after that. But yeah, I appreciate you,
Yeah.
man. Appreciate not just the
Dude,
battle,
of course, man.
the journey of creativity. And it's been an honor to watch you grow, man. I think from the time, even from that jam, or from the time I met you to where you are,
Yeah.
your growth and your reach and the progress that you've made with the art form is pretty inspiring to watch, man. So kudos to you, dude.
Bro, I appreciate that. It's difficult being in like my seat and looking at where I'm at and like wanting more. Cause then I never end up seeing that side, that perspective of like growth. For me, I'm always like, I need to do more. I haven't done enough.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, I think because of that, it's really nice to hear you mention that, specifically you, because you're somebody who I've like asked for advice multiple times. You're somebody who I've had a lot of like in-depth conversations with. You're somebody who I respect like very highly in multiple facets of life. So it means a lot for you to say that, man. Thank you, bro.
Sure, man. I do have one
Yeah.
request. Can you
Yeah.
make a sick ass demo reel of all your client work that you did in the past 2 years?
Oh shit.
I love demo reels, bro. I love them. They're like breaking battle trailers to me. I love
Yeah.
reels. I'm just curious to see what you worked on and what you would piece together because
Yeah.
you're a dope ass editor too. So
No, I appreciate that. So I would love to. The difficulty is that the last time I made a demo reel, are you still recording on your camera?
oh yeah, I'll
Because
go
mine is
stop.
about to die now.
Yeah, I'm gonna stop it right
Should
now.
I turn off? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I'm using